The fire, the fury, the arsonist. Former chief strategist for the president, Steve Bannon, lights most of the matches in Michael Wolff's book. When the president's son and son-in-law met Russians in Trump Tower offering dirt on Hillary Clinton, Bannon is quoted as saying,
"Even if you thought that this was not treasonous or unpatriotic or bad and I happen to think it's all of that, you should have called the FBI immediately."
Speaking about the Mueller investigation into alleged Russian collusion,
"This is all about money laundering. Their path to Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as the hair on your face."
Yesterday, the president responded by saying Bannon had become unhinged. Today, the second cease and desist letter from Trump's lawyers saying Bannon has violated a non-disclosure order and accusing him of defaming the president. This morning, Bannon appeared on Breitbart Radio. His reaction, bizarrely, a conciliatory thimbleful of water from the man who started the forest fire.
The President of the United States is a great man. You know, I support him day in and day out, whether going through the country giving the Trump miracle speech or on the show or on the website. So I don't think you have to worry about that.
The president's reaction to that today.
Did Steve Bannon betray you, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Any words about Steve Bannon?
I don't know. He called me a great man last night. So, you know, he obviously changed his tune pretty quick.
Bannon, just one of the book's main characters. Others have refuted the veracity of the quotes attributed to them. The author, Michael Wolff, says he's taped interviews, though.
I, Donald John Trump.
Some of the most colourful stuff in the book allegedly comes from inside Team Trump. The author says that the inner circle, for example, didn't even believe they could win the presidency. The book paints a picture of a president with at best problems with concentrating, with at worst personality disorder. For example, Wolff says that ex-campaign aide Sam Nunberg was called in to explain the 27 amendments to the Constitution to the new president. Wolff quotes Nunberg as saying, "I got as far as the 4th Amendment before his finger is pulling down on his lip and his eyes are rolling back in his head." In other sections of the book, based on interviews with White House Deputy Chief of Staff Katie Walsh, Wolff writes, "He didn't read. He didn't really even skim. Some believe that for all practical purposes he was no more than semi-literate. He trusted his own expertise, no matter how paltry or irrelevant, more than anyone else's. He was often confident, but was just as often paralysed, less a savant than a figure of spluttering and dangerous insecurities. It was," said Walsh, "like trying to figure out what a child wants." Walsh says she didn't say this, as does Tony Blair.
I mean, this story is literally a fabrication from beginning to end.
Responding to the book's claims that he warned Trump that the British were spying on him. It's the Bannon intervention that matters, though. He provided the intellectual infrastructure for the Trump campaign. And with this very public divorce, the question now, when it comes to the two men and the support base... So, who gets custody?
I think at the end of the day, the Breitbart audience is going to stay with Donald Trump because they have nowhere left to go. They don't trust Speaker Paul Ryan. They don't trust the Republican establishment. They've rejected all of that. So they're going to stay in Donald Trump's camp.
But also, by talking up the Mueller investigation to alleged Russian collusion, Bannon has pulled the rug from under efforts by some to delegitimize it. The bigger question now, with midterms in November, how will the electorate respond to this chaos? Is wildfire fatigue setting in?
We're joined now from the same city by Sebastian Gorka, the former Deputy Assistant to President Trump and a Fox News contributor. Sebastian Gorka, thanks for joining us. Last night, Mr. Trump said that when Mr. Bannon lost his job, he lost his mind. Has he?
I know Steve Bannon. I've been in touch with him since this story broke. You're not going to get me saying that he lost his mind. That's the president's prerogative. This book didn't attack me, and we don't even know if Wolff's assertions are correct. If somebody who's as much a non-conservative as Tony Blair calls Michael Wolff a liar, I think we have to take this all with a large pinch of salt, if not a bucket of salt, John.
But it's difficult for you because you're close to Bannon, you're close to Mr. Trump. So where do your loyalties lie?
My loyalties lie with the United States of America and the republic for which it stands. This isn't about Steve Bannon or the president. It's about a hack. This guy, Michael Wolff, his last book, 13 people complained that the quotes that he included with that last book were made up and fabricated. The excerpt that was published in the New York Magazine yesterday was so full of things that I can prove to be factually incorrect from my time in the White House. He's just a guy trying to sell books. And The Guardian is a rabid right-wing loony left rag, and of course they want to attack the president. Absolutely.
But the problem is that a lot of it has a kind of suspicion of truth around it, in that many other people have come forward in the last, well, 6 to 8 months saying much the same thing.
Well, look, your actual intro listed all the people who've denied the quotes from Michael Walsh's book, from Katie Walsh to the former Prime Minister of the UK. So let's draw our own conclusions about what this person is trying to do. And the idea, this is in the excerpt published yesterday that I read, the idea that Donald Trump didn't want to win the presidency, that's the most asinine statement about Donald Trump I have read in a long time, and it kind of qualifies who Michael Wolff really is.
But then there are things which, when you look at them, really seem to stack up. I mean, Trump's team, and you described them as this, were a team of outsiders pushing against the elite. And yet Wolff's book does indeed deal with those sort of people that Mr. Trump was talking to, particularly Roger Ailes and Mr. Murdoch, neither of whom could be said other than to be in the elite.
But it's all derogatory. He may have dealt with those individuals, but I want to hear the audio tapes. I want to hear the individuals who are in those conversations confirm that that's what they said. And nobody, not Steve Bannon, not Katie Walsh, not Tony Blair, nobody has confirmed the veracity of anything Michael Wolff has published to date. So look, let your viewers judge Michael Wolff and this screed for what it is when the subjects he's writing about respond to the book once it's released on the January the 9th.
But let's get real, Mr. Gorka. I mean, who of those people would indeed ever say anything like that of the serving President of the United States on the record?
Well, that's the whole point. That's why the whole thing sounds like somebody's fever dream of some kind of fantasy from the left. I mean, really, are we supposing that the chief strategist to the president in the West Wing is actually on the record lambasting the president's son? It's from a cheap novel.
Well, I think we are to believe that in some senses, because what does seem to ring true...
You can believe whatever you like. I live in the world of facts, John.
But it is frequently referred to and reported by dependable journalists that there is chaos in the White House.
That's complete and utter garbage. I worked in the White House. This is wishful thinking. 80 and 90% of the stuff I read about, the things that I was involved in the White House, the decisions that were being taken, were diametrically opposed to the reality within the White House. The Guardian fabricated a whole story out of whole cloth with regards to me and my intentions to become the special envoy to Libya. None of it was true, John. That's the level of gutter press we're talking about.
But isn't the very fact that you yourself resigned so soon after Mr. Trump became president testament to the fact that there was chaos there that you couldn't abide?
Have you studied the first year of new presidential administrations? Bill Clinton's administration basically collapsed in the 9th month of his first term. Ronald Reagan, likewise, suffered great turmoil within his White House in the first year. It is standard practice. Why? It takes one set of skills to win a national election and another one to run a White House. This is very much par for the course, and if people don't understand that, they have no sense of history.
Isn't America still waiting for the other one to turn up?
For the other what to turn up?
Well, the other part of the administration that would make sense of the White House, the latter one that you referred to.
John, what are you talking about? We've just broken the 71st stock market record. ISIS's caliphate doesn't exist. We've had unemployment drop to the lowest level in 17 years. There's been a 78 drop in illegal migration across the southern border. NATO is revitalized. What more do you want? This is like the 4th year of a successful administration, all in less than 12 months. This administration should be judged on its achievements achievements, not some scurrilous book that is about painting palace intrigue as fact when it isn't.
Now, earlier I spoke to the journalist Joshua Green, also from Washington, D.C. His book, Devil's Bargain, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump and the Storming of the Presidency, details how Mr. Bannon helped deliver the presidency for Donald Trump. And I started by asking him, what went wrong between the president and his former chief strategist?
Even up until a week or so ago, Trump and Bannon were still talking. Bannon convinced Trump to get involved in the Alabama Senate race and go down and campaign for Roy Moore. The fact that Moore lost and that Trump was humiliated again, I think, is one reason why you saw this angry reaction from Trump in the wake of the book, coming out with a personal statement, assassinating Steve Bannon's character. We've never seen anything like that in Washington before, not even from Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump has described the allegations in Wolff's books as lies, particularly pertaining to Bannon. Are they lies?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, I haven't read all of Wolff's book, but the portrayal he gives is very consistent with the portrayal of Bannon that I had in my book, which is as this swashbuckling, profane, louder-than-life figure who is really the architect of Donald Trump's presidential victory and has a lot in common personally with Trump himself. Both of them have very large egos, they're volcanic, they're combative, and I think it was only a matter of time before the two of them turned against each other.
Where does this play with Special Prosecutor Mueller's investigation? Is this evidence? One presumes he's going to have to take evidence, or may already have done, from Bannon himself. I mean, how does this play?
To be quite honest, I don't think that this has much of an effect on Mueller's investigation at all. He hasn't been deterred by Trump's threats. He is going to and has been speaking with anybody he wants to speak with. He has subpoena power. He's issued indictments. Certainly, Mueller is going to want to talk to Bannon and the people around him if he hasn't already. So I think while this book is titillating and fun to read and talk about, Bannon would already have been on Mueller's interview list, and I don't think anything about the book is going to change that.
So, final question. When Trump says that when Bannon lost his job, he lost his mind, had he?
Had he lost his mind? Well, yeah. I'm not a psychiatrist, and I wouldn't presume to diagnose either one of them. I think you can make a compelling argument on either side. But what's indisputable is that Trump continued to speak and listen to Bannon and to be influenced by Bannon. So, whether or not he lost his mind, Bannon continued to have influence with the president right up until a week or so ago.